This is JT Energy, and I want to thank you for listening to the Slam Fam Wrestling Network. Enjoy the listen. Welcome to the family.
Everybody, and welcome to episode 19 of Bells in a Cell. We promise we are still putting these things out. I know the wait time between episodes has been a little bit long, and well, scheduling stuff is hard, guys. You're trying to be an adult and a podcaster at the same time. It's two very different things. If you've never tried it,
I'm not even an adult, so it doesn't work very well.
But a lot of stuff has happened since the last time we talked to you guys. The biggest one being that we are no longer coming to you from the Pro Wrestling Iowa Network. The story behind it isn't too complicated. Just two groups of people saw a podcast network going in two different ways, and so rather than try to bring together what could be brought together, we just amicably split. We still wish them the best. Pro Wrestling Iowa is now the Pro Wrestling Mothership, and I believe their content has changed slightly. As for us, we are exactly the same. Bells in a Cell and Off the Chest with Timothy Regal, for anyone who's a fan of that from Pro Wrestling Iowa. We are both now on the Slam Fam Wrestling Network. It is brand new, created by the four of us, that being myself, Kat Carter, Alex McCarthy, and Timothy Regal. And I know that Slam Fam isn't necessarily the most original name that a lot of other people come up with that for various wrestling-related organizations or what have you, but it is meaningful to us. It is sentimental to us. Back before Kat so rudely left me, and she was still living in Davenport, and the four of us would all hang out. We refer to ourselves as the Slam Fam. It's the name of our group chat, so it's official. So when we decided to make our own podcast network, that was the obvious choice. Now, for those of you who listen to Off the Chest or Bells, nothing is changing. Same basic setup, same basic weirdness, just coming from a different place. We will also continuing the coverage of SCW and 3XW, and we are hoping to add Funky Monkey, which we couldn't cover before because it is technically outside, well, not technically, it is outside the state of Iowa. It's in Sterling, Illinois. So now we're going to hopefully add some coverage of them into it as well, which I'm super excited about. Funky Monkey is a ton of, well, fun. And so be on the lookout for that. We do have new social medias everywhere. We are at SlamFamRest, WREST, on Twitter, SlamFam Wrestling on Instagram, and SlamFam Wrestling on Facebook as well. And those, the Facebook page will be where we still do post shows for SCW. Admittedly, the last one for Epic kind of sucked. Super sucked, really. It was Regal and a selfie cam. That was just sort of a unfortunate circumstance. We kind of had a very late show and a very early get out time, so we kind of had to rush to clean everything up. So Regal was the only one available to actually get that done. But we promise we will, continue with it in the future. So please check us out, the New Wrestling Network, on all of the social medias. Just to get to hear more of me, I'm popping up in more different places. I got to interview Vicious and Delicious, and oh my god.
Oh, God.
So we talked about butt plugs. Yes, that was about what I expected out of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
I wish more people knew about them because I know a lot of people don't. Now, just so we're clear, the Vicious and Delicious I interviewed was JT Energy and Jah-C. I know there's another Vicious and Delicious, and I can't remember their names. But there's another tag team by that name.
I'm sorry, J.C. Energy and who?
Come again?
J.C. Energy and who? I'm sorry.
Jah-C. You're making me do it. God damn it.
Jah-C. I still remember the old memes. I'm not completely dead to the world.
Oh my God, the old memes. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. So you'll see a lot more of me. Also, for those of you who have ever loved my smart-ass tweets on bells, I also have access to the Slam Fam social medias. So I've been posting a lot of random stuff to the Instagram, especially a lot of funny little videos on there. So be sure to check that out if you love my smart-ass posting. So moving right into it. Now, Kat, friend Kat is still recuperating. How's that going for you, Kat?
So I just went to the doctor yesterday, and I'm out of the cast. However, I'm still not allowed to put any weight on my foot whatsoever. So they put me into a boot, and I can shower now. So that's kind of all I care about. I took my first shower in 3 weeks last night, and it was like an orgasmic experience. So I still can't go to work, and I still can't go to training, and I'm still pretty much a crotchety, handicapped fuck. So
be sure to tweet her at High Voltage Cat to tell her what she should binge watch on Netflix.
Please, and please just, talk to me. I have no friends. Please.
Yes.
I'm alone in Ohio except for my boyfriend in the wrestling company.
Oh, yeah, so please send Kat all the love. She is so sad that she cannot go to training or work.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, you still love the podcast. Yay!
Yay!
For me, probably the biggest thing, other than the change in network, obviously, helping set all that up took a little bit, but we got it up really quick, was SCW Epic in the Call Ballroom. And for those of you who haven't heard before or haven't paid attention before, the Call Ballroom shows are kind of like the promotions, the closest thing they have to a pay-per-view, essentially the big shows, and they always bring in big names, usually ex-WWE people. And this time it was Billy Gunn. So I actually, in passing, basically, I don't necessarily get to, have long, drawn-out conversations with any of the guys they bring in. But I got to meet Billy Gunn. Super chill dude. Like super chill in person, laid back. Very different because his character, of course, is so over the top and not flamboyant, but you get what I'm saying. Very larger than life. Dude is super relaxed in real life. So it was cool getting to share a merch table with him. The match he was on, he was booked with in a tag team for the actual belts. Didn't win them, obviously. He was flying. Flyings don't usually win that. But he was booked with Crotch in a tag team. And for those of you who don't know Crotch, it is basically what you're thinking.
He's your
well, maybe not. He might be skinnier than what you're thinking.
That's Margaret. Margaret.
What?
He's your hip-shaking hero, your friendly neighborhood pelvic thruster, the phallic phenom, Crotch.
I still don't think the phrase friendly neighborhood pelvic thruster should be a thing.
It is absolutely a thing, and you can't stop it, just like the friendly neighborhood pelvic thruster.
Just kidding. So yes, this is a wrestler that comes out pelvic thrusting. Really unnerving to see all the little kids do it with him. But so it was him and Billy Gunn, the Ass Man, tagging against who else?
Man.
Who else would they be tagging against but Vicious and Delicious? That. It was just the sleaze, the filth, the emphasis on butts and genitals in this match was about what I was expecting, more or less. lot of time was before the match actually started. There was a lot of gabbing and cutting promos and stuff before the match. I learned later that Billy essentially took more time than allotted to get all that in. But of course he had the crowd yelling, "Suck it," and all of that, and, the appropriate required things.
Did he come out to Ass Man, though?
What?
Did he come out to Ass Man, though?
I don't actually remember now. One sec, let me call a friend / the fiance that's sitting in the room with me. Did Billy Gunn come out to Ass Man, the actual song? He came out to the DX theme, I am told.
God damn it.
I know, right?
I just want Ass Man.
Well, it was weird because the video they showed at another Call Ballroom show announcing him had the song. So I don't know why he didn't come out to that. And the joke now is because when X-Pac came, Crotch also tagged with him, so now the joke is that Crotch is just trying to wrestle alongside every member of DX.
That's not right, yeah.
I mean, it's a good goal, especially if you can achieve it like that. The show, for me, I wanted to enjoy it. A lot of good stuff happened, and I can talk about the main event. That was awesome. But I was really annoyed because selling merch at the table like I usually did was more obnoxious than usual. And it's usually a very different crowd at call shows. In SCW's other shows, no place they run has quite the same crowd. And it's actually kind of interesting to see that when they're at home, or they're essentially the place where they started before branching out into other cities, Walcott, it's very, there are smart marks, but it's also the greatest love for the promotion. So that they know the most stuff, and pretty much, when they walk out to the merch table, they know exactly what DVD they want to buy. They know exactly what the new Black and Brave merch is that just came out, or they already talked to one of the wrestlers and they know the wrestler has new merch. So it's a breeze because they already know what they want. Iowa City, college kids, they just like buying anything, mostly anything Hawkeye based. Steve Manders. Yeah. The joke is that John Cena himself can walk in to the Wildwood Smokehouse and Saloon and be less over than the Hawkeye Steve Manders. That is the level of dedication to their university that is in that city. And then Dubuque, super smart mark. One of the first shows, people in the crowd were dropping, New Japan references.
Of course.
Yeah. Shibata or something, I don't remember. But, so they usually are a little bit more on the uptake. The problem with call shows, and I love the crowds, but they're a lot bigger, that they also tend to be less informed about wrestling in general than a lot of the other shows SCW runs. Now it has to do with the fact that because it is like the pay-per-views, it's where a lot of the big feuds have their payoff. So a lot of the guys will tell friends and coworkers that don't normally watch wrestling to come. One in particular got 20 of his coworkers to come. So much so that someone was like, "Hey, can you get them to sponsor us?" But as a result, you have a lot of people that don't know anything about wrestling, or they come specifically for the ex-WWE guy, and therefore don't know much about the promotion they're actually at, or modern wrestling. They're mostly people who probably stopped watching after the Attitude Era, which, to be fair, wrestling as a whole, a lot of people that I've talked to, or a lot of stories we've got, and we will be reading more of those, mention that kind of mid-2000s era, and a lot of people dropped off. So as a result, working the merch table is a lot more answering questions, and a lot less actually selling stuff, because they don't know anything about SCW or Black and Brave. I swear to God, the amount of times I had to explain to people who CrossFit Jesus was ridiculous. Because they have multiple shirts now, multiple Black and Brave shirts, some of which they've actually gotten into trouble for. Well, not trouble, they've gotten heat for, but from what I can tell, everyone thinks it's hysterical. over their CrossFit Jesus shirts because Seth Rollins is CrossFit Jesus. And so there's one that says CrossFit, yeah. There's one that says CrossFit Jesus is my homeboy. One that just says CrossFit Jesus, and one that is a recreation of the Last Supper, Da Vinci's Last Supper, but with, honestly, I'm not quite sure exactly what the deciding factor is on who they picked, because obviously they have like Seth Rollins and Merrick Brave, and like the guys from Shield and all that kind of stuff, and there's some other picks. I'm like, I don't know how you relate to Seth Rollins, but it's cool, you're on a shirt. And apparently people have gotten a little bit annoyed at the religious overtones of those. I haven't like heard any direct myself, but I have heard that people have gotten a little bit missed.
Well,
apparently
people
they
are
can't
dumb.
up, I'm not sure.
People are dumb, Margaret.
Pretty much, yeah. So I'm at the merch table and I'm having to explain to everyone just what SCW is or what Black and Brave is, and I'm having to give like these long drawn explanations because you want them to come back. You want them to be like, oh cool, there's wrestling in my area, I should start coming to these shows. But as a result, I'm spending hours talking and selling nothing. So those shows are always frustrating for me. Especially because, you want to, support the promotion, but you can't do that if you can't bring in the money. But the big part of the night, the part I'm really excited for, is that they announced the special guest for their next big call show in August, and it is going to be Vicky Guerrero. And I thought about doing an excuse me joke right there, but then I decided not to.
Yes, queen.
I know. Apparently, from what I've heard, she's super sweet, too. Now, she will not be wrestling. She's going to be a host GM, but that's what everyone loves her for. So that's exactly what you want her to be. So I'm super excited. I don't usually make a point of, like, trying to meet the guys they bring in for call shows, mostly because I get that they're really busy and everyone wants to meet them, and it probably matters more for the guys in the locker room to talk to them for advice and stuff than it is for me to talk to them just for fun. I might actually try seeking her out to chat with her, because that would just be a fantastic opportunity. Like, get to talk to a woman that took part in the first ever Women's Royal Rumble like that, I would love. So you should come back for that, Kat.
Oh, I know. It sounds like freaking incredible. But we've got a bunch of big shows coming up for us, too. So
I know. You know more about big indie names in the industry right now than I ever will.
Plus, I also have, like, fucking 3 weddings to go to. So...
Hey, try planning the wedding and then come talk to me.
I mean, I have no desire to plan that wedding, but okay.
Yeah, it's a thing. It's one of those summers where when you're in your 20s and it seems like that it explodes with either someone giving birth or someone getting married, and it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a fun summer.
There's so many people getting married. It's ridiculous.
You're not the only one.
Dan and I are both at that age where all of our friends are finally getting married. And it's like, oh, okay. I guess we have to spend all of this money.
Oh, yeah, it's expensive. And honest to God, I've had people ask me about, like, planning weddings. Like, don't do it. Unless you love planning stuff, it's the worst. All right. So let's jump into, we got a really big topic, and a topic I'm sure you want to talk about that you have a lot of words to say. But we mentioned before that what we want to start doing at the podcast is reading at least one wrestling story from a female fan, as well as one piece of fan fiction that we just want to kind of include that. So we're going to move on. Our wrestling story comes from @DezWallen, DezWallen, and she says, so it was really my sister who got me into it back in 2009, and Monday Night Raw was a really perfect way to unwind for me during my stress with classes, and also an easy way to spend time with my sister since I was gone a lot between school and work. I actually was very belittling about it at first, quote, I can't believe you watch this stuff, but once I learned to embrace the cheese and cheer for who I liked, who at the time was CM Punk and Sheamus, I was hooked and started catching up from previous years, if you will. Edge quickly became my all-time favorite, and I got into indie wrestling pretty easily due to living so close to Philly. I'm not watching as much as I used to. Money got tight and cable had to go, but my current favorites are Cesaro and Zayn. And this one I'm actually was actually interested in talking about because recently I had discovered, she talks about not being able to follow things as much because of cable having to go, which I think is a thing for a lot of people. Very few, well, not very few, but fewer and fewer people have any regular cable nowadays. I thought I would talk about, for a split second, how many promotions are on Twitch. Because, oh my lord, there's a ton. Obviously not WWE, but there are live shows in the vein of House of Hardcore or Wrestle Circus. There are also shows like Impact and Impact TNA and that sort that are playing their back catalog, so a bunch of their old shows just like on a forever loop on Twitch. So you can't necessarily choose what you want to watch on there, but it literally is free. It's free wrestling. Sometimes as far back as like early 2000s. I remember once I got to see some, well, not Baby Samoa Joe, but that's what I'm going to call him, Baby Samoa Joe, back in the day, back before he was in WWE. And it's a lot of fun. So if you don't have cable and you can't pay the $9.99 to the network, check out Twitch for wrestling watching. I guess if you want ex-WWE, you can always go to House of Hardcore, because that's like 80% of the roster. Mm-hmm. No shots fired, that's just literally how much of the roster is ex-WWE. The Spirit Squad still makes me laugh.
Spirit Squad's the greatest thing ever.
Right? But thank you for sharing your story with us, Des. I'm also interested in how many women named CM Punk as one of their favorites. That's another notable wrestler that a lot of women were drawn to. He was a random aside. I didn't know that I would have thought about that. Now, before Kat gets into her fan section piece, I wanted to note we actually got some great feedback on that episode. Specifically, another wrestling fan fiction writer. I believe I'm going to get her name wrong, so I don't have it in front of me. I believe it was Sarah. Was her name. But she was talking about, essentially saying that she was grateful that there was someone else talking about wrestling fan fiction in a bigger light and not shaming it and not, making people who write it feel horrible for just wanting to get into the story themselves. And then she told me she was actually writing a creepypasta fanfic about Willie Sweet. Did you ever see him or hear of him in 3X?
I literally just started hearing about him once we started reading just through the coverage from, all of our friends and stuff like that. Otherwise I have no idea who this young man is.
Willie Sweet is an Oompa Loompa gone wrong, is the best way I can think of to say that. I mean, he's not, the wrestler isn't a little person or anything, but his gear is very much, looks like a tall Oompa Loompa, essentially. So she's writing a creepypasta about him, and it got me started thinking, why aren't there more genre fan fictions? Like imagine Jack Gallagher in a steampunk setting. And suddenly I have all of these ideas.
and this is my historian side coming through right now. Alternate universes used to be super, super huge in fan fiction community. And and they're still pretty popular nowadays. It's just people I've noticed with the switch, personally for me from fan fiction to Tumblr, people kind of more so just put their ideas on Tumblr in short posts and don't actually write them out and fully fledge them. So it's not that there's not the interest for it out there, because I've seen a lot of stuff with Jack Gallagher in situations like that. It's just that people aren't writing actual stories with it, and they're more so just coming up with their own ideas and, like, sharing it with others. So, like, I think that kind of has a lot to do with it. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't gone on fanfiction, like, .net in a long time, and, like, I only read things on Archive of Our Own, so I don't know. It's maybe I'm out of touch, but I feel like my insight here is still pretty good.
Well, if you're listening to this and you have written or have seen genre fanfiction, please let us know. I'm particularly a fan of, like, fantasy, sci-fi, steampunk, all that, so I would love to see that kind of stuff. And it doesn't have to be romantic. Just be like, Jack Gallagher is the captain of a flying airship in a steampunk setting, and I would read the hell out of that. So, all right. So, Kat, what do you have for us today?
So, sorry, my cough is still bad. So I didn't even mean to do this, but on the vein of alternate universes, I have pulled up an alternate universe fan fiction of my own that I wrote a little bit ago. Now, for the Chikara lovers out there, this one's for you, homies. This is about, it's essentially about, like, the relationship that Dasher Hatfield and Mark Angelistetti have, where it's very, like, fatherly. Like, Dasher's very, like, a dad to Mark almost, and it's super great. And it's one of my favorite things, because I'm, like, even on I prefer, like, the innocent side of it, where it's just like, hey, he's just like a dad, not like a daddy. And I'm like, yeah. Where normally I'm in...
But you do like daddies, right?
Yeah, I love the daddy shit. Like, you know me, like, kink shame me all you want to, guys. I'm into that daddy shit. But I'm also a very big fan of just, like, positive, like, fatherly, like, you know, especially, like, between males relationships, because there's so much toxic masculinity and, like, looking down on that type of thing. So I'm fucking rambling at this point. So this is a little story that I wrote, and I feel like I'm probably only going to read part of it just because it's a long one. But we'll get started here. Dasher Hatfield had patience, for the most part. He was understanding, caring, and compassionate towards his young nephew, Mark Angelistetti. He was only a teenager, after all, and being under Dasher's care wasn't always the easiest task. He tried his best to keep the kid out of trouble. But when he got a phone call from a neighbor about a boy showing up to Dasher's house, he was a little more than annoyed. He excused himself from the Little League team he was coaching to check up on his little troublemaker. There wasn't another car in the driveway, which meant Mark had smartened up on hiding the fact that he had friends over. Dasher looked up to Mark's bedroom window, and of course the curtains were drawn, obstructing all views of whatever treachery was occurring. As silently as possible, Dasher opened the front door and crept toward Mark's room. Suddenly, a familiar smell wafted into Dasher's nose, and he huffed in surprise. He immediately opened the door, not shocked at all to see him holding a blunt next to the local troublemaker, Cloudy. "What do you think you're doing in here, boy?" Mark practically screamed in shock, hiding the joint behind his back as he turned. "Dasher, hi! I didn't expect you home, so..." "I don't want to hear it. Cloudy, if you could leave my house, I'll be calling your parents shortly." Dasher stepped aside so the young man could leave, not even commenting on the eye roll that he received. Looking back at Mark, he crossed his arms over his chest. "Now, I'll ask you again, Mark. What do you think you're doing?" So, I'm sure for a lot of people that's a familiar scenario, getting caught by a parent smoking the devil's lettuce. I've never partaken, so sorry for any PTSD-esque memories that I just elicited there.
My favorite was he left the Little League.
He's a baseball
Little League coach.
Man. He's gonna.
I love it. It's like, what can make him the most dad? And I'm going to be honest.
I could have also described his outfit he was wearing, and it probably would have been like cargo shorts and like Sperry's with like knee-high crew socks. So,
or it's like that whole have you ever seen the post online where it's like a picture of a dad wearing a white T-shirt tucked into jean shorts with like the Adidas white sneakers, and it's like, if your dad never wore this, did you ever actually have a dad?
Oh God, yeah, the fucking like Asics. Oh
yeah.
man. Oof.
Like, if your dad never wore that, was he really a dad?
Nope.
Not at all. You didn't actually have a dad.
Not even Dasher Hatfield, not even a father. But that is an outfit that he has probably worn on many occasions.
Well, then he's prepared for fatherhood.
He's prepared.
Honestly, and we've talked about it before, you obviously love Chikara. I really should look more into it, but I still don't know that much about it. So I'm hoping that for anyone that is a Chikara fan, that was applicable, or that was like, oh, of course he's the father. I don't know enough to be like, well, yes, of course.
Yes, of course.
I'm trusting your judgment on that, Kat. Well, I trust your judgment on most things fan fiction, to be honest. 'Cause I still haven't gotten that into it, apart from that one Velveteen Dream Aleister Black one. So, had a lot of fun, had a lot of laughs, and now things might get slightly ranty, more than slightly ranty, because
maybe.
the big topic we're going to talk about, and of course we know a ton of podcasts have probably already talked about it, but it's worth talking about ourselves, is the greatest Royal Rumble happening out in Saudi Arabia. And mainly the discussion here is not about the actual quality of the show itself. I did not watch it. I have heard varying accounts from it was a glorified house show to it was awesome. But that's not really anything we care about. We care more about the WWE being in a place that is as, what's what I'm looking for? Awful as Saudi Arabia. And I don't usually like using blanket terms like that for other countries, because I always believe that other countries have different cultures and we should never, totally write entire country off as that. So let me rephrase and say the government of Saudi Arabia. So they're the ones causing all the problems. And how we're not the biggest fans of WWE trying to get into the market there. As I said before, I did not watch, and that was not an accident. I had friends that watched it, other people. I have the network. I very much could have watched it. I chose not to, because I don't want to support WWE being in that country at all. I don't want them to be in that country because it has proven to be horrible for pretty much any basic human rights aspects, any civil rights, any what have you. So, Kat, what are your thoughts on this?
So, I have a little bit of a different view, shockingly enough.
Shocking.
So, from what I've heard about the event and like how it actually came to be, and I'm not sure like how much of this has really gotten that widespread. So WWE was paid by the Saudi government to run that event. They were paid a huge amount of money, like I think I read somewhere like $10 million, like something insane, to run this event in their country. And I understand, the whole aspect of like, hey, Saudi Arabia kind of has super shitty laws regarding anyone that isn't like quote unquote the norm existing. But from what I understand, like they used all of that money to book the event and, get the pyrotechnics and all that stuff. And they also paid every single person on their roster whether they had been competing or not. So that includes the women. They paid everybody for this event, essentially. So it's not like WWE actively was like, hey, let's run in Saudi Arabia. It was more so like, hey, we're getting paid a huge amount of money and we understand that the situation's kind of shitty, but we're still going to make sure our employees are taken care of and that this is still ran as if it's a normal show. And like, it's shitty, you know, the situation of like, hey, Saudi Arabia hates women and gay people and literally everyone. But WWE at least tried to make it a semi-not horrible situation.
Semi-not horrible situation. I guess, and I will say this much, part of my annoyance right now is the number of, I'm not going to call them apologists, I'll just say people trying to see the good in it, keep talking about how, oh, well, this is the start of something, it's the baby steps towards, you know, them changing or what have you. And I'm going to be honest, I really don't think it is, by any stretch, because there were no women on the roster. I don't even think, I saw like screenshots and stuff, I didn't really see any women in the crowd, or if they were, they were probably kept out, you know, out of view.
It does have to do with the law, like, you know, women are banned from doing so much shit there, including performing. So, like, it's not a great situation. But WWE wasn't actively saying, fuck the women, we're not going to book them. It's literally just against Saudi law.
Yeah. But I guess the other issue is that, like, again, I don't see this as being, look, Saudi Arabia is taking a step in a new direction and they're changing, because I'm pretty sure that this got them a lot of money. And it got them a lot of money. It's still sticking to, you know, what WWE made the best of it. They still followed all of, like, the bullshit restrictions, and, you know, they didn't have the women wrestle, they didn't have, well, I take it this way, people got really angry that Finn wasn't wearing the rainbow gear, but other reports say that he actually hasn't been wearing it, for several shows since WrestleMania, so by that report, I don't think he, like, actively refrained from wearing it there, that he just wasn't wearing it anymore. However, I don't think he would have been allowed, unless they managed to convince the Saudi government that it didn't mean support for gay rights. And then did I hear that, was it Sami Zayn, whose background is Assyrian, or someone else whose background is Assyrian, basically either couldn't go or didn't want to go because of the danger it would pose to him as someone from a different ethnicity? I can't remember.
I didn't read anything about that. I didn't read much about the event, honestly. I know there was some controversy with, like, the Daivari brothers, Sean and Arya, like, portraying their characters that they did there. So, you know, it's, there's just a lot of controversy that surrounded this event. Yeah.
But the big thing is, for me, and the big reason I didn't want to watch it is because I get that they were paid to do it. And I'm sure if they are offered large amounts of money, they'll probably do it again. I don't want, to the best of my abilities, to make it look like I support that kind of thing. And I know it's everyone's going to say it's just wrestling, but that shit matters. Like, did you hear, I don't know, you said you didn't read a lot. They showed a promo, while they were there. And I believe on Saudi TV, if I remember correctly, that involved takes or clips of women wrestling, and they were forced to apologize for showing those promos that showed women wrestling. So, like, even, like, showing clips of women wrestling, they had to apologize. So, again, by no means do I think that this has started anything. Nothing about the product that was presented there would tell me otherwise. You know, like, I don't know, like, I guess someone who thinks differently can argue against it, can say that yes, it was, because I don't see how a wrestling show happening there by their country's laws, even though the country paid, you know, wanted them to be there, showed any development. And so I struggle with that. And I'm I really hope that this doesn't become like a regular thing where they're regularly popping over there to do that kind of thing. And if it does, I know that my vote probably won't mean much. I know that people are going to be like, well, they still made a ton of money. What does your vote count? I get that. But for my own personal sense of peace, my own personal morals, I can't support anything that happens in the country with the amount of bullshit, bigoted laws that Saudi Arabia has.
Right.
And that is my little piece on it. We are at about the 40-minute mark, a little bit early today. Not too much has gone on, and I really should probably start keeping up with more WWE, to be honest. But again, we are at a new podcast network. Please check us out. We would love to see you guys over there. We would love to get this off the ground and make it a big thing. We might start covering Twitch channels or start, live tweeting Twitch shows and giving reviews on those if you're into that, especially for those of you who don't have any sort of way to watch regular WWE programming or just don't have any way to watch anything that requires any sort of money. Do you have anything else to add, Kat, before we take it home?
Not really. If we're gonna add like things I would love to see covered in the future, maybe be on the lookout for like AIW coverage since, I'm here in Ohio. So if anyone has any interest in that or, maybe hearing from like some AIW people, of course we've got the AIW podcast, but hey, that doesn't feature my beautiful sultry voice. So, give me some feedback on that. I like AIW. Hopefully you like AIW. So,
I need to watch more of it, to be honest. There's so much good wrestling, I can't keep up. All right, so where can they find you online, Kat?
Y'all can find me on all of my social media pretty much at High Voltage KAT. If you are curious about my Tumblr, whether my regular one or my fanfiction one, hit me up on either one of those. I will go ahead and give it to you. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. It's the same as usual.
All right, you can find our podcast at Bells in a Cell on Twitter. That's most of the time that's me. So if you want to hear my thoughts on wrestling, you can hit us up there. If you want to follow me personally for all of the weird nonsense, mostly me lamenting trying to get published because it is a bitch, you can follow me at Margaret_Adele there or on Instagram. And again, please follow Slam Fam Wrestling at Slam Fam Rest on Twitter, Slam Fam Wrestling on Instagram and Facebook. It would mean the world to us if you guys could help us get this thing off the ground. Thank you so much, and we will see you next time.